The year is 2011 and I just got back from a trip from Spain with my school and I had a little bit of money left over. So I wanted to buy myself a pair of retro Air Jordans. And in today's video, we are going to be looking at the outcome of wearing your Jordans on a weekly basis for 8 years, particularly with the white cement 4. That's right. So right after the drop, we are going to be looking at the pros and cons and how these shoes last over time. What's going on, everybody on YouTube? My name is Bryson, and on my channel I teach men how to style sneakers and clothing. And in this one we are going over something a little bit different, and we are going to be looking at how the Air Jordan 4 white cement lasts over an 8-year period. This is one of my most worn Jordans of all time because it is one of my favorites, right? This is an OG colorway of one of my favorite sneaker models ever, the Air Jordan 4. Michael Jordan, of course, graced the court with this shoe as well back in 1989, and I'm just super thrilled about this shoe. And when I think back of the memories of when I picked it up, I just remember being ecstatic, and it was one of the first Jordans that I had ever picked up. So I of course wore these a ton, and it's just interesting to see how these shoes look over time. And the outcome and the value that I want you guys to get out of this video is basically to show you how Jordans last over time, and also to go over the pros and cons of the actual Air Jordan 4 white cement itself. So let's take a look. So before we go over the pros and cons of the sneakers, let's jump back to the release. So these came out in February of 2012, but I actually didn't pick these up until a month later, and because of that I had to pay resale for them. And luckily I was buying them off a friend, so he gave me a great price, which was around I think $290 or $280 or something, which is actually a really good price considering, you know, how much Jordan 4s go for these days, right? So retail, they're running you with tax in Canada at least $300. So a really good steal on those, and I definitely got my money out of it, of course, because I still have the shoes today and I've worn them a ton. So when we are looking at the cons of the sneaker, there's a number of things that I have to erase. So because this is my favorite Jordan of all time, or one of at least, it's important to realize and take a step back that there are cons with this sneaker. So number one is the quality. Back in 2012, the quality of Air Jordans were just terrible. So as you can see, genuine leather is supposed to crease. There is almost zero creasing on this shoe compared to genuine leather sneakers. So that's not to say this is a fake leather, but these were treated as such so that it wouldn't crease. It's weird how brands listen to consumers, but sometimes also to a fault. So I remember back when I was first getting into sneakers, people were complaining that the shoes were creasing too much. It was a thing that when you had a crease on your sneaker, it was time to get a new one. So Jordan started treating their leather in such a way that the shoes would start creasing a little bit less. Now when you go to use the shoe, it's super stiff, not very pliable. It's a very dense shoe, not very flexible, of course, and it's just one of these things that it sacrifices on comfort so that people, you know, when they look down at their shoes, it seems pretty straight to them. So number one thing with these is the cons is the quality of these, and you can also see that with the yellowing as well. So sneakers are going to yellow over time. That's just how it is. You know, when you go look back at some of the OG pairs from '99, you know, the quality on those shoes is really, really good, but you will still see the shoe deteriorate over time. And that's exactly kind of what you're seeing here. Whenever there's plastic or rubber on a shoe, it will yellow, especially if it's a white plastic. And that's exactly what you're seeing here with these mesh. They've really started to yellow over time. But ultimately, you know, when you have the color of the laces that are off-white now because they're so dirty, it sort of goes with the sneaker, and it just goes to show that the age and how many miles have gone into the shoe, which is kind of like something that I'm a little bit proud of. You know, I've had these for 8 years, and it just goes to show that I've also been into sneakers I've been in for a little bit longer than that. But it's, you know, when I look back at 8 years, it's like, holy shit, time definitely flies by. So quality is definitely the number one con of this. The other con is, I would say, is the Jumpman on the back. So we're so accustomed now to having Nike Air on the back of sneakers. You know, I have my Jordan 4 breads over here. These have Nike Air on the back, and so one of the things that I prefer most is seeing that Nike Air. So I would definitely say that because a few years later, back in 2013, when these were re-retroed, we did get that Nike Air treatment. So now when I see that shoe compared to this one, that's definitely something that I'm cognizant of. So I would say that's another con of the shoe. Now when we are looking at pros, there's definitely a lot more pros than there are cons, because I was just very pleased with this shoe, and if I wasn't pleased, I would have gotten rid of it by now, but the number one being is that this was the first Jordan 4 white cement retro since 1999, so there was a big gap in between there, and I was just very fortunate enough to be able to pick up this pair, and when these did come out, there was a big release behind it, so it was cool to see that these had finally come out and that people were, Jordan Brand was starting to listen to, you know, sneakerheads and their demand for Air Jordan 4s, so I'm super excited that these actually re-retroed, you know, a number of years later. And so when we are looking at the next Pro, I would say it's just the colorway itself. It's such a clean shoe, you know, even though this isn't really a Bulls colorway, it sort of still plays to the whole Bulls theme, right? You got the red on the bottom, you got the red hits, of course you got the black on the sneaker, but it's such a creative design, you know. It's the second sneaker, second Jordan sneaker to actually have that visible air unit, and definitely the first to have this, you know, the cement print right here. So the speckling on here is really clean, and I'm just overall, you know, super happy and satisfied with the sneaker, which is why I put so many miles into it. So you know, I hope that you guys got value out of this video in the sense that you're able to see how these will last over time, and also, you know, get a good sense of the pros and cons of the Air Jordan 4 white cement itself. So I got a ton of how to style videos that I want you guys to watch, that'll show you how to piece together different outfits with your favorite Air Jordans. So click that video right over there, and I'll go meet you there. Let's go watch it, guys. Let's go.